firefighter selection issues. Alright, so the basic concept we're trying to get to is alright, so how do we select from our applicants people who prefer this to this? Okay, so the problem that most of the fire chiefs face is finding people with the intrinsic motivation that both enjoy the thrill-seeking part of the job and have the desire and the ability to get through a paramedic course. And the paramedic course takes approximately 2 years. Firefighters have a 1-year probation. So before you even get them into the paramedic course, they're already off probation. Now they've got union protection, they've got civil service protection, they're a lot harder to get rid of. If they can't or they refuse, if they either can't or don't want to pass or complete the paramedic course, then what do you do with them? Now they're of limited value to the fire department, since most fire departments are 65–70% of the work is EMS. By this time, the city or the department has already invested a significant amount in their training. Okay, so the answer to this is person job fit. We want to try to select firefighters that have something in their personality that they have an intrinsic motivation to fight fire and to help you. Intuitively, this kind of makes sense that that's what firefighters want. This is kind of the stereotype of firefighters. The big giant guys that can, kick down doors and rescue cats out of trees and always want to help you. The reality of this, especially in economic times that we have right now, is you're going to have a lot of people that want to go to the fire department because there's medical benefits and retirement. You've got people that are self-employed, painters or carpenters or whatever, that don't have any benefits. So I can go to the fire department and get benefits 1 day every 3 days and then go work my real job the other 2 days. So what we're trying to do is weed these applicants out. Currently, most fire departments have physical agility tests so we can measure if they're strong enough to do the job, and some type of cognitive ability test, civil service test or whatever, so you can tell if they're smart enough to do the job and maybe have some mechanical ability. Okay, so what I'm proposing to do is have a personality-based measure that will predict this rescuer personality to look at the PO fit. Alright, so the rescue personalities concept first came into literature through Mitchell. In 1980, Mitchell and Bray wrote a book about critical incident stress debriefing. Now, I'm not going to get real deep into that. Basically, they just proposed that because firefighters, EMS, and police do unique work, that their mental health needs are a little bit unique from the general population. Just created some debate between regular mental health professionals, which brought them some critics. Mitchell never proposed or never showed any empirical evidence of a rescue personality. And his critics jumped on that and decided, or their argument was that if there's no rescue personality, then the rest of his mental health treatment didn't make any sense. So briefly, let's look at what he thought of as a rescue personality. He thought these individuals were inner-directed, action-oriented, obsessed with high standards of performance, traditional, socially conservative, easily bored, highly dedicated, like being in control, and enjoy being needed. As I said, this is basically anecdotal. He never showed any empirical evidence. My rescuer personality is a bit more focused. Oops, okay, I basically already went over this. The studies that they tried to disprove the rescuer personality with, they were looking for common themes and all incumbents. So the first few studies looked at all firefighters, and they were looking for these personality things to pop up. Well, nothing showed up significant. And then they looked at studies that examined firefighters, police, and EMS. And it was the same sort of concept. If you've had a couple of traffic stops with a police officer, you're well aware that some of the officers are obviously not there to help people. authority and control. Not all police officers, but it's easier to see in that dynamic that not everybody there is to help you. Same thing with firefighters. Okay, so my rescue personality is mainly looking at altruism, wanting to help other people, a thrill-seeking component, the experience of parathyroid emotions, and we'll get into that in a few minutes because I know that's kind of new to most people. Interpersonal skills, and we'll get into that a little bit also. Job satisfaction, and resilient or hardy personality. The hardy personality we're not going to touch on today. That was from another study, but I'll briefly discuss how that correlates with some of the other findings. Okay, so altruism came from the French philosopher Comte. He coined the term in 1851 and defined it as self-sacrifice for the benefit of others. An example of one of my questions that looks for this is I anticipate the needs of others. Thrill-seeking. That one's kind of self-explanatory. I consider myself an adrenaline junkie, or did when I was younger. And the reason I put in I did when I was younger is because when I did the first study, the thrill-seeking component didn't correlate as highly as I thought it would. When I started going back and looking at the data and the demographics, I had almost 25% of my respondents had been firefighters for 25 to 30 years. They're probably not seeking thrills anymore. And I did this through, and we'll get more in the study, but I did this through a Facebook study, and I thought, I'm not going to have that higher level because it's Facebook, and of course I was dead wrong on that. Okay, parathyroid emotions. These come from a concept in Michael Apter's book. Dr. Apter has done a lot of work since the 70s. In fact, he kind of founded the idea of reversal theory. I don't want to get too deep in that either because it's really a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down. But the concept is basically you've got 4 dyads of emotions, and that you exist somewhere on each of those, on the dyads throughout the day. So, and you flip back and forth between those, depending on your mood or what happens throughout the day. What we're looking at basically, and this comes out of his book, The Dangerous Edge, is the dyad between excitement and anxiety. And the difference between whether you feel anxiety or feel excitement when you're placed in what would be considered a dangerous situation is going to be your frame of safety. So in other words, if you don't feel safe, you're going to feel anxiety. If you do feel safe, even in the same situation, you're probably going to feel excitement. One of the analogies he puts in his book about this is going to the zoo and seeing a tiger in a cage. As long as there's a cage and you're seeing a tiger, you feel safe. And then, of course, seeing a cage without the tiger, you're just bored. One of the studies that he did when he was coming up with this research is he did a study with skydivers, both the novice skydivers and experienced skydivers. And he gauged their amount of anxiety and excitement from the time they left the ground to shortly after they got back to the ground. And what he found was that their excitement, or their anxiety rather, increased as they got closer and closer to the time to jump out of the airplane. And as soon as they jumped out, they reported their excitement being the highest, and then it decreased as they got back to the ground. So the concept behind this is that the more anxiety you feel up to a point, as soon as you switch into the frame of safety, the higher the excitement is going to be. So that's what we're looking for in these personalities. People are going to feel a lot of the excitement and enjoy the excitement, or even the anxiety leading up to the excitement in fighting a fire. Is that pretty much making sense? Okay. All right, interpersonal skills. I've made a lot of this research questions based off my own experience as a firefighter and what I had seen in others that were high performers or low performers. So when I had some of these questions and I got them the answers back, some of the questions just didn't group very well with some of the other groups of questions on factor analysis. Some of those were, I enjoy the authority I have over people at work. To me, this is kind of the opposite of what a rescuer personality would feel. They're there for the status, they're there for the authority. Some of the questions were, I can say things to my coworkers that I can't say to my wife, and about how close those interpersonal relationships get. Or one of the things I enjoy about my work is the friendships that I have. So these didn't really claim with anything else. I put them up as interpersonal skills. As we find out later in the survey, either I'm not asking the questions right, or the people aren't understanding the questions right, and there was no significance with the rest of the personality. All right, support for the city and the department. A lot of my research has been with firefighter stress. So one of my hypotheses was that somebody that was a rescuer personality was going to be stress resistant. Cardiac and strokes kill 45% of on-duty deaths every year for firefighters. Actually, the numbers are going up because the safety's getting better. But this has been over a 35-year period that it's been around 45%. And you would think with somebody that's going into burning buildings, they're going to have trauma that's going to kill them, and not cardiac deaths. We've increased the health, we've increased nutrition and fitness, workout facilities, but those numbers haven't really been changing. So the only thing we're left is stress. There was a study called The Source of Occupational Stress, and what they found for firefighters that the biggest additives for stress were either not getting along with their department administration or not getting along with the city administration. So this is why this group of questions were there. All right, so the sample of firefighters that completed the test. This was a Facebook ad. So I got on Facebook. It's linked to the survey, targeted for firefighters nationwide. You can put in a few different firefighting terms. So if anybody that claimed that they were a firefighter on Facebook, this ad would pop up in the little upper right-hand corner whenever they get on Facebook. If they clicked on that, then it would send them to a link to the survey. Okay, Facebook keeps track of some of those, some of the statistics. The ad popped up like 800,000 times. Out of that, 394 people clicked on it and started the survey. Luckily, I only have to pay for people that click. 199 firefighters completed the survey, 21 females, 178 males. 80 were career, 95 were volunteer, 24 were both. In other words, they were career firefighters in one department, they volunteered with another department. When I did the study that preceded this one, a higher number of the people that were in both departments were really high in the cardiac stuff. And then experience. 59 firefighters were less than 5 years in the department, 84 were between 6 and 20 years, and 56 were over 20 years. I had broken it down a little bit more. We still had a very high number, over 30 years experience in the fire departments. All right, so results. My construct of the rescuer personality correlated with these other measures. Altruism was 0.195. P was less than 0.01. I don't know how heavy y'all are in the stats. A number less than P, or P of less than 0.05 is good. That means I found something significant. And then the correlations could be anywhere from 0 to 1. 1 being perfect and 0 being nothing. The paropathic emotions, I didn't look at the full range of paropathic emotions, only the one that dealt with anxiety and excitement. And then we had some questions on a study that basically asked, how often do you feel the negative emotions? So I looked at the ones that felt fear frequently. I consider that a negative trait. So that correlated to 0.256 and less than 0.001. Interpersonal skills was non-significant. That didn't really have much to do with rescuer personality at all, the way that it was asked in this study or for this population. And then support for the city and department, 0.250, less than 0.01. So 3 out of the 4 things showed significant results. All right, limitations. Response recruited through Facebook. So while this had the possibility of being a national sample, I didn't put anything in there to track where they came from. So I don't have any way to reliably say that yes, it's a national sample. And then it's basic correlational research. So there's no way to put cause in this. This is still basic research that I'm leading up to a bigger study to hopefully that'll have to be more robust. All right, future research. The next step is to take these questions that I ask incumbent firefighters, design predictive questions that I would give to people that have no experience with firefighting. I did this. I now work for the Personnel Board in Jefferson County. We run a lot of firefighter applicants through that. They let me give this predictive questionnaire out to the last 900 people that applied to be firefighters. 730 of them returned responses, and I'm still going through the data. I'll come back next year. Hope that's what I'll have. And then also trying to give convergent, divergent validity studies so that by the end of 2014, I hope to have a marketable measure that I can give out to jurisdictions to help them with their firefighter standards. All right, comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you did the survey through Facebook, was it like just kind of like a link to like a third party?
It was a link to a Qualtrics survey that we had Qualtrics through the university. The survey was, I think, around 130 questions. So it wasn't just the rescue personality stuff, that I also did some work with Laura Petita on emotional contagion, and there's some other stuff. The research prior to this was also looking at PTSD symptoms and a cardiac health.
I have another question. I know this is kind of early on, but do you have any suggestions for departments who really don't accept the job match or personality type of how to market that, or?
Well, I think a lot of that too presents it to them. So I'm in the unique position of being an ex-fire chief and having the IO background to hopefully do that for you. I'll give you my card afterward. Yeah, this is a hard sell for firefighters. They don't really want to get into personality stuff, and because they don't really know how they might match. And fire departments, you know, oh, I want my friends to come in, I want families to come in. And there's even a little bit of justification for that. You know, you tend to hang out with people that have a lot that are similar to you. But yeah, it's not as easy for them to say, oh, you know, this is what you've got to do to pass the physical agility test, and they can work out to do that. And well, here's the kind of questions you're asking, the mechanical ability test or the civil service test, and they go out and study for that or get the answers. That's another limitation of the study that we're doing right now, is it's easy to fake do it on. In the final version, it will probably be forced choice questions, where you either have two basically negative questions or two basically positive questions, and they've got to pick between those two, which is more like them, and hopefully that will still show the rest of your personality, but not make it easy for somebody to say, oh yeah, answer to A is this, or 1 is A and 2 is B, and so forth. Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time.